Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence, and we're here. We're thrilled. We're at the Blue Note Hawaii, and what a burning show tonight. Roy Hargrove is here helping to break this place in and taking some time for us in between sets. Very generous of him. Thank you very much, Roy.
Thank you very much.
It's good to be talking to you, and what a thrill to be playing here. How's this venue? You've been all over the world and to other Blue Notes, no doubt. This is a nice one. It's new. Nice feeling tonight?
Oh man, this one is really nice, mainly because it's so comfortable here, being on the beach in the nice weather, and whenever you can get into some comfortable natural surroundings, it's always good for the music, So I'm just glad we're blessed.
It's a great accompaniment for the music, and I was reading a little bit about you, and I was seeing how your parents credited with discovering your musical ability and talents in you early on. I was hoping you could share some stories of maybe that discovery, the way you remember it happening.
Well, my dad collected a lot of records, and he had a good ear for knowing what was going to be like the next big thing, so to speak. So people would used to come to our house to see what we had in his collection, so they would know what to go buy. We had a place in Dallas called the Sound Warehouse, and every weekend he'd go get like a couple of records, and people would come over our house to see what we had. So ever since I was probably old enough to speak, I was kind of into music, even by osmosis. Back then it was more like the Temptations, Four Tops, Parliament, Funkadelic, George Clinton, and a lot of the stuff in the 70s. And I guess around the time I was about 9 years old, I joined the school band, and my band director at the time had a very special thing. He could teach us how to improvise. And we're in Texas, so it's kind of like based on the blues. So you learn a few little blues things. And it's sort of like it's a little bit different because it kind of gives us an understanding of emotional quality in playing music. Even before we learn all the technical things that go with it, you get the emotional thing, the spiritual thing. Even as a young person, some people can understand. You can understand that. But anyway, I went on to high school, which is an art school, and then I went to Berkeley in Boston. And I guess around my end of my high school tenure, I met this guy, Larry Clothier, here. And he took me on a tour to Europe. And I began to go to these jazz festivals that would feature a lot of my heroes, people that I knew, listened to on record. A lot of my favorite musicians, people like Dizzy Gillespie, and Freddie Hubbard, and Woody Shaw, and even some other lesser-known musicians, but with great talent that taught me a lot. People like Ronnie Matthews and Larry Willis and Jimmy Cobb, Walter Booker, and there's so many of them, that I learned from by just them being examples. I just watched them on the bandstand, and they really taught you how to be like a grown-up, musically speaking.
You had some formative cats, though, who you got to interact with both. There's a middle school encounter and a high school encounter that I read about, the David Fathead Newman thing, and then later on Winton. And I was when you look back at the road that you've been on, do you say to yourself, well, those were two really crucial experiences?
Definitely. I think it's really important for, a young musician that's starting out to get the experience of being around the elders, because this can, it just shows you a great example on how to do it right,
And those cats, do you still remember either of those experiences when the teachers, because I look at that as like school and a music education really having a critical role in your life.
Yeah, definitely. Education is very important. And there's different kinds of education. You got you got the school of hard knocks, and then you got the actual school where you're in a building and sitting there taking the notes or whatever. But there's nothing like the kind of education you get from actually being there and seeing it live. I used to frequent this little bar. It was like a club that featured all the. Actually, it was a place where most musicians went to after they finished their gig. It was like a piano bar called Bradley's, and I used to go there all the time and hear some of the greatest musicians I ever heard. And just being there, just really gave me a savvy and an understanding of the fabric that goes in learning how to play.
You pointed out the emotional thing earlier too, and learning about that, and just some of the nuance that comes along with this kind of music. When I think about like as you've developed as a cat through the years, and you kind of like extrapolate from that on your own. Yeah.
Did you say extrapolate? What's that mean?
Extrapolate. It's like to take from and then develop on past that. It's like a development word, to take one thought and then from that we derive another thought, sort of thing. And so when I think about like this evolution in your life and the places that it's gotten to take you, I know Dizzy was another one that I read was early on, and that high school experience helped get you there.
Dizzy's great, man. He was the greatest. He was always so. He would always help the young guys, He was just so giving and had such a great personality and a wonderful sense of humor. And, he really knew how to make you relax in situations where you might be nervous,
Which is an important part, and part of that, you talked about education. You spent just a year at Berkeley. I actually went to Emerson, so I was just around the block from there. So I was thinking, yeah, I was at Emerson and from 90 to 95, and I was thinking like 1 year at Berkeley. I had a lot of friends, and they graduated from there, some of those cats. I'm thinking, why just 1 year? Did you get there and you thought, well, I don't really need to keep doing this?
That's a longer story than I care to tell you, but anyway, I was there after about a year and a half. I can. Long story short, February came around and it was really cold out there.
Well, I'm in Hawaii, so we have that in common.
Yeah.
And that chased you away.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things. But I know New York was calling. I mean, I was spending more time in New York than anything, so I thought it made more sense to change and go to school there instead.
For someone like myself, when you read about commissioned to do music, Lincoln Center Jazz, when I think about that, explain what that means. I look at the Love Suite in Mahogany. How does that work when you get an opportunity to do something like? Well, because I look at that and I think, wow, what is that? That's like for people outside who are not doing music like this. You think, wow, that sounds very heavy, commissioned. Explain it to us. Give us an idea. How do you get to have that privilege?
Well, I did. They called me and asked me to do it, and I did it. I was really excited about doing something like that, especially sharing the bill with Terrence Blanchard, one of the great composers of our time, I just, I sat down and put it together. It was really a lot of fun. I thought people had forgotten about that, man.
And so on your own, it's just like they... Say again?
Is there a video of it somewhere?
I would like to see a video of it, but it just makes me think, that's a pretty prestigious thing, no?
Yeah, of course. I was glad to do that.
How long does it take to do something like that?
For me, it was, I don't know, it took a couple of days. It doesn't take me long to write, If I can get some paper somewhere, I can write pretty fast, Something like that, it was just a matter of me putting together the right musicians for it. And at that time, I think we had was Jesse Davis and Ron Blake and who else was there, man? Greg Hutchinson, Mark Carey, Rodney Whitaker, and my homeboy Andre Hayward on trombone. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, actually. I remember that. I still have the flyer to that in a nice frame.
I'd frame that too if that had been mine. When you talk about names and cats that you've gotten to work with, as we go to wrap it up with you, 'cause your time is very valuable. A guy that was really in Boston, I mentioned I was in Boston too. I used to go to Scullers. I used to go to the Regatta Bar. All these places I'm sure that you've played many times. Fred Taylor over at Scullers, a great guy. I think of Chucho Valdez, and I remember how privileged I was to get to see him in the Regatta Bar, how excited I was. And I think like, wow, it's a whole different culture, whole different vibe. Everything's changing now too with Cuba, so it's a real revolution there. What led to that? And talk a little bit about like what got you interested and any stories you got of working with the legendary Irakere master Chucho Valdez.
Man, we went to Cuba the first time was in 1995, and by invitation of Chucho, he brought us down there and really rolled out the red carpet for us. Man, it was really it was a very special time, you know. And I heard some incredible musicians there. Not only just musicians, I mean, I just got to see some really great art, you know, in all different areas, you know. These people that I got a chance to meet were multifaceted in their expressions, you know. I met this one guy. He was a trumpet player, and he also played harp, and violin, or something like that. And then there was another guy who was a visual artist, and he could dance. And I mean, there was just all kinds of things going on up there. I mean, on a very on a level of virtuoso, you know. A lot of these musicians were incredible that I heard there. Anyway, Chucho invited us there for the jazz festival, and at that time, I think it was just my group and Steve Coleman were the only two American groups at that particular festival. And we went there, and man, it was just astounding. Really blew me away. So then we made this recording. First we went to a place called the Casa de la Musica in Havana. And then we went to Italy, the Teatro Mancinelli, and made the recording with a group that featured like the front line of myself, Gary Bartz, Frank Lacy, and David Sanchez. And the rhythm section was kind of a mixture of guys from Cuba and from New York. Chucho was there, of course, and the great Changuito, Miguel Angar Diaz, Horacio Negro Hernandez, and John Hicks was also there, and Idris Muhammad. So it was quite a band. And Russell Malone was also there. Yeah.
You got good memory.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we set up in the theater and recorded basically kind of the live thing for the whole time we were there. Some of it was taken from some of the live shows, and some of it was just like, you know. Oh, Johnny Griffin. Was Johnny Griffin on that? No, I'm getting it mixed up now. Same theater, different sign, different thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, that's how that went down, and people were coming from all over the world to see this band when I went on the road with it. I mean, it really attracted a very broad audience, you know, especially with all those drummers in there. You know, like Changuito, he's like a master. You know, everybody studied with him. And then this guy Angar, we lost him a little while back, but Angar was just like an octopus. He had like 5 congas, you know. And Chucho, you know what that is. This is like the president, you know. So, yeah, I mean, that was a lot of fun, man. We went on the road. People were coming from everywhere. Yeah, it gave me a lot of education on like rhythm, you know, and how to understand how to play over different types of rhythm, you know. Especially being in Havana, hanging out with those drummers, you know, they showed me all the different components that go into the you know, the guanguancó and the son and you know, the different clave.
The ingredients.
Yeah. So that really helped me a lot as far as learning how to play rhythm.
Well, I anticipate a lot more coming out of there now that things are rapidly changing politically with Cuba. It should be allowing a lot more interaction. But that was a great project, and I really do appreciate you shedding a little light on that and just some of the other things you've been up to. This is a great treat for Honolulu. In all the 12, 13 years I've been here, we have not had a jazz club. We haven't had a place that can have this kind of regular Yeah, I live here. I've lived here since 2002, and I just wanted to say, not only is it a thrill to talk to you, but thank you for being willing to take the booking and be out here. It's just it's a great treat for Honolulu and for Hawaii Public Radio to get to talk to you.
You liked it, huh?
Oh, I liked it. I loved your set, and just thrilled that it's kind of, I can get lost and really think when you're playing.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
And we do appreciate it. Thank you for taking a few minutes for us.
No problem.